Well, as most Australians put their feet up for the Queen's birthday weekend, the Queen and her Prime Minister have been hosting the G7 leaders in what is shaping as one of the most crucial international summits in this decade. Scott Morrison is there as an onlooker, but he is not wasting any opportunities. Our political editor, Andrew Clennell, is with the Prime Minister in Cornwall and joins me from there live. Andrew, welcome. How is summer in lovely Cornwall?
Well, it's not too bad. It gets very cold at night, as I found out in the live cross to Sunday agenda last night, Chris, but pretty sunny today. I actually got sunburnt yesterday while I was at Carbis Bay waiting for... I couldn't believe I got sunburnt in England. Carbis Bay waiting for the PM's press conference after the Trilateral with Boris Johnson and Joe Biden.
Oh, that's great. You must be the only journalist to ever get sunburnt. Now, let's rewind the tape to yesterday, your time, this morning, ours. The PM had this trilateral meeting with Joe Biden and Boris Johnson. What was thrashed out, do you know?
Well, to me, it was just a show of strength to show China that the nations are united in the face of economic coercion, in the face of any activity in the South China Sea. It was pretty blatant, really. I mean, Scott Morrison was talking about security in the Indo-Pacific and that the meeting was largely about that, as did the statement of the three leaders afterwards. Well, that means China. And whether it's cybersecurity, trade sanctions, whatever, these three countries want to show a united front, and it seems America and the UK really want to show support for Australia on this front.
And so beyond China and the insecurity in the Indo-Pacific, he was very focused on COVID, wasn't he, Scott Morrison?
Yes, he was, and he gave a speech to a health forum where he promoted again this idea of the WHO, the World Health Organization, having weapons inspector types who would go around and look at a pandemic, how it started, how it originated, and trying to get on top of it. And that was an idea that was welcomed by Boris Johnson and other leaders. So we might be hearing more about that from the G7 leaders, but he had quite a contribution to make there. In the press conference, when I asked him yesterday if he thought the virus came from a lab in Wuhan, Scott Morrison simply said, "I don't know." He certainly didn't rule it out. But any way you look at it, it's not just that was the issue. It's this belief that China could have done more to prevent the virus spreading overseas. And Scott Morrison seems intently focused on that. So he talks about dealing with future pandemics, but it's really also a reference to China and how it handled this pandemic. OK,
so the schedule today, he started early and a meeting with Angela Merkel as well.
Yes, he's met Yoshida Suga, the Japanese leader, and again, he won't commit to net zero emissions by 2050. Japan obviously does, but both countries have agreed to work on hydrogen and other technologies in a bid to get emissions down as quickly as possible. That seems pretty climate change focused, that meeting this morning. I expect the same from Angela Merkel. And Boris Johnson in London, I think, Tuesday morning. So he'll get a bit of pressure on that. I think Boris Johnson's pressuring him to come up with a midterm target, but the Prime Minister doesn't look like he's going to bend on that. He's thinking about domestic political considerations and his mantra, technology, not taxes. So I guess he's hoping the market can get there via technologies.
Now, we scored a bit of a coup because at this very fancy barbecue, they served up Australian Shiraz.
Yes, Chris, and I've been trying to find out for you what type of Shiraz, but I can tell you that Australian Shiraz was served at the leaders' barbecue, and I haven't got an answer on that yet. I might text you if I get one in the next hour.
Yeah, we'll get a couple of...
That was definitely deliberate. Get a couple of cases, you reckon?
Yeah.
That was definitely deliberate. It was definitely a show of support in terms of the economic sanctions on wine that have come onto Australia from China. So very deliberate for Boris Johnson there to serve that particular beverage at the function.
Where are all the press gang? Where's the Canberra gallery? You're almost solo there in terms of electronic media. Why didn't everyone come? Were they scared? Did they not get an exemption, or what happened?
Well, I guess you'd have to ask them, but there was a feeling for a while the trip might not be on. A lot of these organisations have London bureaus. I agree with you, though. It's very rare to have such a small press pack travel with the Prime Minister. It's myself, Dana Moore, the cameraman, a pool cameraman, and Jeff Chambers from The Australian. But that's an opportunity, I guess. We've had some London-based journos join us. I don't think there's any doubt that the prospect of quarantining for 14 days was a big disincentive. I will be doing that, and I'll be still working from quarantine to keep me sane, as many at Sky did after the US election. I think that was a disincentive. Maybe the virus too is a disincentive, because I've certainly met a lot of people here who've had COVID or have friends who've had COVID. It's really common here. It's very different to what's obviously occurring in Australia. So there is the risk. I'm smashing the hand sanitizer pretty regularly and wearing a face mask and all that. But I think the quarantine put people off. Look, it even put some of the Prime Minister's senior people off, to be honest. Normally you get 2 or 3 press officers on a trip like this. The PM's got one who's running around quite a bit, and he hasn't got his Chief of Staff here, for example. So it's a much thinner delegation than you'd ordinarily expect. A lot of things change in these COVID times, including these sort of trips.
All right, you slip, slop, slap. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Chris.